So as I was saying, over the past years, important results have been achieved. And I just wanted to outline what we have achieved all together. It's not just the IMF or the Ministry of Finance or the central bank, but it's actually the Surinamese people who have made sacrifices in order to achieve macroeconomic stability. We do see that inflation is coming down rapidly, which is a very good thing, because inflation, if you think about it, is the biggest tax on the poor people because it erodes their real purchasing power. So to the extent that we can bring inflation down, that's already a great success. You have also seen the stability of the exchange rate and even some recent appreciation. This is also a result of very tight monetary and fiscal policies that have been coordinated between the central bank and the Ministry of Finance with our technical support and advice. Debt restructuring process is almost complete, especially with the major creditors. That is also a great achievement. And the debt at the end of 2023 is now below 90%, which is, it hasn't happened for quite some time. The international community is recognizing the efforts that Suriname has made. S&P credit rating agencies upgraded its rating. International bond spreads are trading at historical lows, which basically means that the markets are confident in Suriname. International donors are increasingly re-engaging. IDB, for example, increased its support for Suriname. The World Bank is coming back with additional programs on financing. So all of this would not have happened if not for the sacrifices of the Surinamese people and the responsible policies of both the Ministry of Finance and the central bank. This mission, we had very good discussions, and I'm hopeful that we will be able to complete this review on time. Our board meeting is tentatively scheduled for the second half of June. We are fully aligned with the government and various ministries, not just the Ministry of Finance, but Ministry of Natural Resources, Ministry of Social Affairs, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Labor, on all the reforms that do need to take place in order to bring Suriname to a better place. Over the last few years, I think what has been achieved is stabilization of the program. But if you want to use an analogy, we had a patient that was in distress, that was bleeding and what was about to collapse. We were able to stabilize the patient. We were able to resuscitate him. But now the question is how to make this patient healthier, how to create economic growth in the country. And the most important points on how to create economic growth and good investment climate in the country is to address governance weaknesses and vulnerabilities to corruption. In this regard, we are shifting increasingly more towards the governance reforms that are very important. On Tuesday, the National Assembly will discuss the procurement law. This is one of the examples where it's not just about fiscal savings and efficiency of government spending, but also accountability and transparency of government purchases so that everybody can submit a bid and whoever gets the procurement contract, people would know who is the beneficial owner of a company that won the contract. This sort of transparency the population is yearning for. So the National Assembly also has an important part to play in transforming Suriname into a country where you want to raise your children and where the young people see their future. I am extremely grateful for the good relationship that we have built with various counterparts in the government. But we not just meet the government, we also meet civil society, we talk to people when we go to restaurants about their experiences. So all of those stories are incorporated into the policies, into our advice, into our decision. My team, we come from many different countries, and we would not advise Suriname to do anything that we would not advise to do our own country. I know the political climate is heating up before the elections, and some of the decisions that the government has made were absolutely necessary, although politically difficult to swallow. And that is electricity tariff increases. But if you think about it, if you run your household and you have such a big expenditure article where you're subsidizing everybody, because that's what electricity subsidies do, and we're wasting $4 billion on those subsidies a year like it was last year, this is not a sustainable situation because it crowds out all the other spending that you could have been doing. It's important to do it in the right manner, but also you can think about the opportunity cost. All the things that you cannot do because you're spending so much money on those subsidies. And yes, efficiencies could be improved, but that would not be sufficient to fill in the hole. So it's important to phase out those subsidies as soon as possible within this year, but at the same time, properly provide social assistance support to the poor and vulnerable households so that they don't feel the impact of this reform. But doing nothing is not sustainable. When we spoke back in February, I mentioned that it's not just about expenditures or budget, but the country, it was facing an existential crisis because if you did not adjust the prices properly, you had a drought in the interior and the water level dropped so much that there were fears of blackouts. In the past few weeks, it was raining, but praying for rain is not a good public policy. You need to adjust those tariffs accordingly. And transparency with respect to what's on the electric bill would help increase public buy-in for the reform. So the household that receives the bill and doesn't know why is it so high, to the extent that the government can provide the breakdown, this is your consumption in kilowatt hours this month and last month. You can compare. This is the subject subsidy. This is the object subsidy. People are smart. If people are provided with this information, it's much easier for them to understand what is happening and why it is happening. But the bottom line stands, electricity tariffs have to increase because subsidizing everybody is not the right policy. The government should not be spending billions of SRD that they do not have at the current juncture, when this money could have been diverted towards better salaries for teachers and healthcare workers, for more social programs, and for infrastructure that is priority. So I do hope that wisdom prevails and that people don't sacrifice the progress that has been achieved for the politically easy decisions. So I would leave you with those remarks, and afterwards, I would also be happy to take any questions.